Alright guys, I said I would do it. So today we are going to talk about my time in the occult and what happened while I was practicing the occult. Of course, you guys know I'm Jesse. Hope y'all are doing great today. It's a beautiful day as always. Today we're going to be looking at this, and I'm going to be completely honest with you guys because it's interesting. I done a lot of interesting things. Nothing illegal that I can remember. Nothing really illegal. But at any rate, nothing illegal in any country that I've been, I guess I should say. You guys, before I get into the video, hit that like and subscribe button. Y'all liking and subscribing is the best way to support these videos that I do, and it ensures that I'm able to continue to make videos like this for you guys. Let's try to push for 1K followers. All right, guys, and now let's get into it. I don't know how much y'all know about the occult, but there are obviously different types of occultism, just like there's different types of Christianity or Judaism or Islam, Muslims. I was a person who leaned heavily on Aleister Crowley. Now, y'all know I talked about it in my last video about why I became Catholic, my conversion story. So if you've watched that, then you know some of this already. I had an ex that told me about Aleister Crowley. She was terrified of him. Now, I'm the kind of guy, I like horror movies. I like horror, anything scary I like. I'm intrigued by it. I think it's interesting. Well, she was terrified of this guy. She was in a family that was very Pentecostal. They were so Pentecostal that they wouldn't even use Crest toothpaste because they said that the guy who came up with the ingredients sold his soul to the devil to get the ingredients or something strange like that. They would not even use Crest toothpaste. Well, she was terrified of this man. She did not want me dealing with anything he's doing. I'd never heard of him. And she's the reason I got interested in him. I was learning about Aleister Crowley. I mostly look at the history first, and then I would look at his readings. Some of his history back in the 1930s, maybe. I think it was the 1930s, or it might have been like the early 1900s. It was sometime during that time. It was a British newspaper actually called him the wickedest man on earth. And he loved that. He loved that attention. He thrived on that kind of attention, which, I mean, of course, it's going to be a good selling point. You know, you're being called the wickedest man on earth. When he was a child, he said his mom called him the great beast 666 because he just did so many degenerate things. He did a lot of bad things. He ended up getting several STDs and all this other stuff. And at the time, the stuff he was doing was definitely not something that is as common as it is now. But he actually took on that label. He would call himself the Great Beast 666 or the Beast 666 or just 666. He would sometimes sign his books like that. He would take pictures with a drawing of 666 on his head. He would do all this stuff. I want you guys to realize, though, that I don't think he was really as bad as people think he was. He was just very good at selling that image, and being able to put that image out there is a good selling point. You can make a lot of money from that. Now, he didn't make a lot of money. He did not, actually, but he was rich for a while. He was able to live off his dad's inheritance. His dad was a preacher for very conservative, very strict Christian group. I think it was the Quakers, maybe. I don't exactly remember what it was, but they were very strict. And he did not like living like that. Supposedly, he went with his wife to Egypt, and he had a vision of Horus, which is a Egyptian god. This is one of the reasons I know so much about Egyptian mythology is through what I've read through him. Horus came to her or to him, or it wasn't Horus, but it was his holy guardian angel or something. I can't exactly remember how it goes. But then in 3 days, he wrote a whole book that he called the Book of the Law, which was supposed to replace the old law of Christ and get rid of what he called the pallid dead Christ and bring in a new law for a resurrected God, a new resurrection for humanity or something like that. And I got really interested in that. But it wasn't until I went to college the first time, and I was with a woman that I'd met before I got into college, and we were basically had an LDR, long distance relationship. I came back for Labor Day weekend, and I started living with her And I threw away my college there for one semester. I had to work hard to fix that. I got it fixed. But for one semester, I threw away my college, and we ended up breaking up during that time. And I just lost it. I started really hitting it hard after that on Aleister Crowley. I started doing rituals. There's a book called Living Thelema by David Shoemaker. By the way, David Shoemaker is also a psychologist, and a lot of the psychology work he does is analytical psychology. And you guys know, if you've watched the last video, that's Carl Jung, Jungian psychology, which is, it's all connected. Everything I was doing in college, all connected to each other, because I was starting to use analytical psychology, which has ideas like we're all part of a collective unconscious, and you can see archetypes and different gods and goddesses and personas and all this other stuff. I was able to put it all together with occultism and psychology that Jung started. But David Shoemaker, he was able to take some of Crowley's work that was a little bit hard to understand and make it a little more understandable. I started doing the lesser ritual of the pentagram. I'm pretty sure I did the lesser ritual of the hexagram, and maybe even the greater ritual of the pentagram as well. I did the star sapphire ritual. There was another one, ruby star. I did that one as well. And it's debatable over whether Crowley wanted that to be a real ritual or if it was just more of a parody of other rituals. That's kind of debated amongst some of the occultists. But I was doing stuff like that because I found that interesting. I found that fascinating. And I found it helped me emotionally and psychologically. It really helped because I was so curious. I was very curious. I'm still a very curious person. But also going to a Southern Baptist university, I got to mess with people's heads. I was into the occult when I went back. They let me come back in January of 2011. And I had a roommate, but I got there before him because I like to be early. And I had voodoo dolls. I had all kinds of stuff that was just for occult practices. He comes in, he's a little freaked out. Again, I told you I went to Southern Baptist University. These people are pretty strict Christians. He's probably freaked out by the capes I have. One of them had an upside down star shaped into a goat head. One of them was like a Chinese dragon cape. I had all kinds of stuff. Had a staff that had a skull head on it. Not a real one, of course, but shaped like one. Did you not? The next morning I got up early because I like to go for walks early in the morning. I come back. He's moving out. My very first full semester in college, I had a 2-bed dorm because nobody else wanted to live with me because they were terrified of me. And I never had a roommate after that. The college allowed me to have 1-bedroom dorm because people were terrified of me. And for whatever reason, maybe because it was a Southern Baptist University, they have strict rules on that stuff. They were allowed to kick you out, if I remember correctly. They were allowed to kick you out if you didn't abide by those rules. But I think people were so afraid of me that they didn't want to deal with it. Nobody wanted to deal with it. When we had room checks, they just would peek their head in, make sure I was okay. Like nobody wanted to mess with me. The football team was terrified of me. I remember once I had my cape on, and the football team, one of the guys in there said, "Hey, yo, man, make it rain tomorrow so we don't have to have football practice." It wasn't supposed to rain. I didn't do anything. I swear to Buddha, I didn't do anything. It just randomly rained. And so they were terrified of me. They were scared because they thought I actually made it rain. It was great. I don't know, just by divine providence, God. I don't know, but they're scared. And I love that. That's something I took a lot of joy in. It was scaring people. And that's another reason I liked being part of this whole occult idea, this occult identity, is it was able to get into people's heads. So I'm not going to tell you that I was able to summon magical beings and all this other great stuff, because I couldn't, I didn't, and I don't think that stuff's that real. When I practiced the occult, what I believed is that it is possible for you to be able to summon an angel, or for you to be able to summon a demon, or maybe even a god or a goddess. But you have to be able to tap into the very deepest parts of your mind, the parts of your mind that are connected to other minds that are part of that unconscious reality, that collective unconscious reality that all minds come from, that our primitive brains developed over time. And as we evolved, the brains evolved. We had those primal instincts, those animal instincts. Our brain also still has those primal things that go on in there. I believe that you could, with enough practice and enough time and enough energy, be able to project those demons or angels or gods and goddesses from your mind into reality. You may be able to see them, you may not. I don't know, because it never happened to me. But they weren't real in the sense that they lived outside of us. But they did live out. It's so hard to explain it. You've really got to read a lot on analytical psychology, because they live within our mind, or at least this is what I believed. They lived within our mind, but at the same time, they lived apart from it. Because I believe that when we died, our ego would live on, our consciousness would live on, but it would become part of that collective unconscious that we're already a part of, that our primal self was a part of, and it becomes part of that. And we just become part of all these mixes of the angels and the demons and the gods and the goddesses. They all reside in that, and that's where we go. I'm telling you guys, it's tough for me to explain, especially since I haven't even really studied it. God knows how long. It's been a long time. It's been a long time since I studied it. That's basically the gist of what I believed. For a while, after I got out of the Catholic university, because I came back to the church, but then I got out. I went to a Catholic university and I got out, and I started getting these urges again to check out the occult stuff. This is why I will say, be very careful if you start studying the occult, because it can get you. You'll start getting interested in this stuff and you won't want to stop. And when you do stop, there will be urges sometimes for you to come back. It is very true that can happen, because it has happened to me. It still happens to me. Luckily, my fiance just won't put up with it. She'd just leave me if I did that. So luckily, I have a woman who would do that. But there for a while, I built my own altar. I used, it was a book by Don Milo, I think's his name. But I can't remember. Maybe it was Practical Thelema or something like that. But or it might have been the one by David Shoemaker. It might have been Living Thelema. But they talked about the dimensions you could make your altar into, which was 2 cubes. But I don't remember how big and how wide and all that. I don't remember the length, width, and height, or whatever, depth. I can't remember what the other one was. But you had to have 2 of them stacked on each other. I painted it all black. I got an altar cover that I made. I made my own wand. I bought a dagger. I did all this stuff. I got back into it, and I got back into it really hard that time. So much so that I actually started calling upon Lilith. And I don't want to talk about who Lilith was, but y'all can look her up. She's a little rough. She's a tad bit rough. I started calling upon her, and I can't remember that demon's name, but he was a demon of intelligence. I really liked him. I started doing that more often. And that's when in my other video, I talked about how I fell away from the church. I gradually fell away after going to the Catholic university. That's what started happening, because I had stopped going to church, stopped going to confession. I stopped being part of the community, the church community, and I fell into the occult practices again until I got back into the military. Now, once I got back into the military in 2020, I stopped. I haven't done it since then. I've wanted to. There's been several times, especially now that I'm in the Philippines. It's easy to find a place, to even build a place, because things are so cheap here, but I won't do it. That's kind of my story, though, guys. That's how it was for the occult. It was wild. I was different. I'm not the guy you know now. I mean, I had the same personality, but my beliefs were so much different. I took my enjoyment of messing with people and trying to understand people when they're under pressure. I took that to a whole new level with the occult practices. I don't recommend y'all start doing it. If you're not If you've never done it, I don't recommend you to start. Just not worth it, I don't think, because it can get into your head, and there can be times where you want to go back to it. And those times are hard to resist. They really are. And it takes church, it takes a lot of prayer, it takes the Eucharist, it takes confession. You gotta be able to have that connection with God to make sure it doesn't happen again. Anyhow, that's my little rant. That's my lesson for today. Don't even start studying it. But let me know what y'all think in the comments section below. Do y'all agree with me? Do y'all think that it's bad, or you think it's good, or just let me know something. Let me know what you think. I love talking about this. It's something that deals with psychology, it deals with religion, it deals with philosophy, and I love all three of those things. So I love to talk about this stuff. And with that, guys, know that y'all are valuable and that you matter. God bless. Peace.